we had a plan to do a World Sankirtan party. And I was closely connected with these three couples, and they were just like my fathers and mothers, actually. I feel that more and more now, even more, I think, at least I'm more aware of it now. I see Guru Das and I see Jamuna, I think these people were actually like my father and mother. And they welcomed me so warmly. Guru Das took me under his wing when the temple was running short of funds. Prabhupada said to us that we should go out and get jobs, the brahmacharis. So my first job as a devotee was to work at the Kodak film factory. I'll remind you. So Guru Das, of course, was a more, he was in an elevated position in the company. He was the developer of the films. But he got me a job, and my job was, the first job I got, until I showed my merit, was that I was the person who would break open the film canister. So all day long I would stand there just breaking these plastic film canisters and putting them into the next thing. He had this very good job in the dark room developing film. After about 2 weeks of seeing that I was very competent, they gave me a promotion. And the next part of my job was that I would take the film and put it on a rack, and I would walk through these heating elements with the film. It was just like going into hell. And then I would have to deliver the film to Guru Das. So we had some association and stuff. After a while, Prabhupada got a report about how we were doing, and he said that if you're not satisfied with this, you can go out on the street and chant Hare Krishna, and Krishna will arrange everything. So we decided that that was a much better alternative. And we took up that program of Sankirtan. And shortly afterwards, our three couples left for Montreal, and then from Montreal they went to London. But they always had a desire to bring us there. And somehow or other they convinced Srila Prabhupada to allow us to come to London. We were pretty much managing the Los Angeles temple, but somehow Mukunda Maharaj convinced Prabhupada, and I got a letter from Prabhupada saying that you can come for some time. That Mukunda Maharaj and the others would like your help to organize Sankirtan, so please come for some time. So my coming to London, I remember it very clearly. Jayadurta Maharaj will also remember. I made a stop in New York Temple, and then in Boston Temple. That's when I got to meet Giriraj Maharaj also. He was a brand new brahmachari book distributor. So I went up to Boston, and also I stayed in New York, and we showed them a little bit of how we did things on the West Coast, and they showed us a little bit about how they do things on the East Coast, which I will spare Jayadurta Maharaj the embarrassment of the details. we one time, Brahmananda and I had never met, but we always used to speak by phone because of we had a very good arrangement worked out with the phone company where we got to make a lot of free phone calls, which I also will not tell you about. So Brahmananda, I used to tell Brahmananda how our movement was growing on the West Coast, and he'd always say, how many devotees joined this week? And I'd say, like 3 new devotees joined or 4 new devotees joined. And then Brahmananda said, yeah, well, we lost 2 more this week. And he was always, they were heaving people out, tossing them out. When I got to New York, I could understand that it was a very heavy city, and these men were very heavy. Brahmananda and Rishi Kumar in their long coats, walking around. So we made a brief stop there. When I arrived, they had made this big, simply wonderful, for me to give to Brahmananda, and it was like this big. And I said, Brahmananda, they've sent you prasadam. And he, first of all, when he saw me come off the plane, he had never met me, and he said, "Gee, I thought you were a lot bigger than this." And he sort of engulfed me in his embrace, and I gave him this simply wonderful. He sat down right on the walkway of the airport and began to take prasadam. Then when we got to New York, he said that we should go to Boston for the Sunday feast. We went there for the weekend, and after eating the Sunday feast, he drove all the way back to New York to eat the New York Sunday feast. And then on Monday I went to London. They packed prasadam for me because it was a night flight. So Brahmananda took me to the airport, and we were waiting for the plane, and he said, "You know, you really think you're going to eat on the plane?" So, you know, I said, "Well, I'm not really hungry." And he said, "Let's just see what they cooked." And he ate the whole bag of prasadam. So when I arrived in London, Brahmananda had also gotten me one of these long coats. I had a long New York coat and a hat, you know. And I remember I came to came up to immigration, and they said, "What's your purpose in coming here?" So I said, "Just sightseeing." They said, "Do you have any friends?" So I said, "I have one friend," and I gave Mukunda Maharaj's name, his civilian name. So they said, "Okay, just stand aside." So somehow when they called the temple to inquire about me, I didn't say it was a temple. Whoever it was said, "Oh yeah, he's coming here to organize our temple," you know. So then the gentleman at the immigration made me wait, and then everybody, I was sitting there and I watched everybody go through from the plane, and then I was left alone. And he said, "So you're coming here to sightsee?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I would suggest that you've come here for another purpose." I said, "No, sir, I've just come here to do sightseeing." He said, "I think that you may have come here on the invitation of a religious society." I said, "No, I don't practice any religion." But he didn't believe that. He said, "All right, sit aside." So he made me sit there, and they made me wait another hour. So after a while, they brought my bags. And they said, "Are these your suitcases?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Okay, we're going to open them." So then they opened the suitcases. And after a while, they looked through everything I had. And one thing was a letter I got, which had been written by a very kind doctor who didn't think that I was qualified to go in the military draft. So he had written quite a letter. So the man said to me, "You sure you've come here for sightseeing?" I said, "Yes." And then he reached over, and I was wearing a tie, and he pulled down this tie, and he said, "What are these?" And he went like, I said, "What is this?" So I really was, at that point, I just said, I just prayed to Prabhupada. I said, "You brought me here. Now I'm just going to depend on you. Whatever happens is up to you." So he read this letter and said that this person is, psychologically not fit, he's dangerous. So he said that you're going to have to come to the airport doctor. So they took me to the airport doctor, and they showed the letter, and then I went into this I realized I better start preaching. So I said to him that there's a lot of people who don't agree, with this war in Vietnam. And the doctor got right into it. He said, "No, we don't agree with it at all." And I said, "Well, I don't agree with it at all either, and I think that the doctor who wrote this letter probably didn't like it either." So after a while, he could understand that I was actually quite a normal person. And he told the people, "You better let him in, he's okay." So after about 3 hours of waiting, or 2 hours of waiting, I went through, and actually I was so well disguised that Mukunda Maharaj, who was standing right at the door, didn't even recognize me. How these immigration officials recognized me, I will never know, but Mukunda Maharaj couldn't even recognize me, and I walked right by, and then we started looking for another hour around the airport till we found each other. Finally we met, and Prabhupada, was there at Soho Street, at Bury Place, and the devotees brought me there, and I told Prabhupada the whole incident, and he was very pleased that I had come there.